What happens when a man known for sarcasm, charm, and razor-sharp wit walks onto a daytime talk show set where the tension is already thicker than the studio lights? What happens when a casual interview turns into a live, unscripted standoff that no producer could have predicted? Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to The Truth Narrator and like and comment right now if you love dramatic celebrity moments that feel too intense to be real. The applause began like it always did on The View, warm, rehearsed, polite. The audience clapped as the cameras panned across smiling faces, the co-hosts sitting upright with their cue cards, their practiced expressions ready for another predictable segment. But there was something different in the air that morning. A nervous electricity. A kind of silent anticipation that made even the cameramen glance at each other. Ryan Reynolds walked out with his usual easy grin, waving casually to the audience. He looked relaxed, confident, wearing a navy blazer over a simple black shirt. The crowd cheered louder than expected. A few whistles broke through the applause. He placed his hand over his heart in mock gratitude and took his seat. Joy Behar leaned forward slightly, her smile polite but tight around the edges. "Ryan, welcome to the show," she said, voice smooth but eyes sharp. "Joy, always a pleasure," Ryan replied, flashing that signature grin that had disarmed interviewers for years. The first few minutes went exactly as planned. Talk about his latest project. A joke about filming schedules. A quick story about his family. Laughter flowed easily. Even Joy chuckled once or twice, though her eyes never fully softened. Then, almost imperceptibly, the tone shifted. Joy glanced down at her card and tilted her head. "You're known for being very outspoken online," she began. "A lot of humor, a lot of opinions. Some people say you blur the line between comedy and commentary. Do you ever worry you go too far?" Ryan raised an eyebrow slightly, still smiling. "I think if you don't go a little too far sometimes, you're probably not doing comedy right." A ripple of laughter from the audience. Joy didn't laugh. But, she continued, "When you joke about serious topics, politics, social issues, some feel it's irresponsible. That a celebrity with your reach should be more careful." Ryan's smile thinned just a touch. "I think humor is how people process serious things. It's how we survive them." Joy leaned back, crossing her arms. "Or avoid taking them seriously." A murmur moved through the audience. A subtle shift. Something was happening. Ryan's fingers tapped lightly on his knee. "I don't think joking means not caring." Joy tilted her head again. "But do you think sometimes you hide behind jokes to avoid being held accountable for your opinions?" The words hung in the air longer than they should have. Ryan blinked once. The grin was still there, but now it felt like armor. "I don't hide," he said calmly. "I just package things in a way people can actually listen to." Joy smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. "Or in a way that lets you say whatever you want without consequence." A low gasp came from somewhere in the audience. Ryan leaned forward now, elbows on his knees. "Joy, I'm pretty sure if I wanted to avoid consequences, I wouldn't be posting half the things I do." A couple of audience members laughed nervously. Joy didn't budge. "Some critics say you use humor as a shield. That when you're challenged, you turn everything into a joke instead of addressing the issue." Ryan's eyes locked onto hers for the first time without the filter of a smile. "Do you want me to stop joking and start answering seriously?" There it was. A beat. Silence. The kind of silence that makes producers sit up in their chairs backstage. Joy nodded slightly. "Yes, I do." The studio felt smaller. Hotter. Ryan exhaled through his nose. "Okay, then ask me something serious." Joy didn't hesitate. "Do you believe celebrities should use their platforms to influence public opinion on political and social issues?" "Yes," Ryan replied instantly. "Even when they aren't experts?" "Yes." Joy raised an eyebrow. "Why?" "Because being human is the only qualification you need to care about human issues." The audience broke into applause. Not loud, but noticeable. Joy pressed her lips together. "But don't you think that can mislead people? That fans might take your words as fact simply because they admire you." Ryan nodded slowly. "That's why I encourage people to think, not follow. I never tell people what to believe. I just say what I believe." Joy leaned in closer. "But when you joke about it, doesn't that blur the seriousness?" Ryan's patience was still intact, but barely. "Joy, humor isn't the opposite of seriousness. It's a delivery system." She shook her head slightly. "Or a distraction." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Just a fraction. You seem very determined to make comedy sound like a crime." A few audience members laughed, but it faded quickly. Joy's voice sharpened. I'm trying to understand why someone with influence chooses sarcasm over clarity. Ryan didn't blink. Because clarity without engagement is useless. People tune out lectures. They lean into laughter. Joy's fingers tap the table now. Or they misunderstand the message entirely. Ryan leaned back in his chair. Then maybe the issue isn't the joke. Maybe it's how people are trained to listen. The tension was no longer subtle. It was visible. Thick. The co-hosts glanced at each other. One shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Joy's next words came slower. Measured. Do you think you've ever crossed a line? Ryan paused. For the first time since he walked onto the set, he didn't have an instant answer. Yes, he said quietly. The audience went still. Joy seized it. So you admit that sometimes you go too far? Ryan nodded. Of course. I'm human. But I don't pretend I'm not. I don't hide it behind moral superiority. That line landed hard. A couple of audience members audibly reacted. A soft, "oh" slipped through the crowd. Joy's eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting I do that? Ryan held her gaze. I'm suggesting that everyone on television, including me, should be careful about judging others from a studio chair. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Joy's lips parted, but no words came out immediately. For the first time in the segment, she looked slightly taken aback. Ryan's voice was still calm, but now it carried weight. It's easy to dissect people when you're not the one being dissected. The audience was silent now. No laughter. No clapping. Just attention. And the interview had officially stopped being an interview. Joy's silence didn't last long, but in live television time, it stretched like a held breath that no one in the studio dared release. She adjusted in her chair, straightening the papers in front of her, as if regaining control of the conversation physically might help her regain it verbally. The other hosts shifted uncomfortably, sensing the temperature in the room had changed from warm banter to something sharp and unpredictable. Ryan remained leaned back, but his posture had subtly changed. He was no longer the charming guest trading jokes. He was alert now. Present. Watching. Joy cleared her throat. Ryan, no one here is dissecting you. We're discussing the responsibility that comes with influence. Ryan nodded slowly. I understand that. But responsibility doesn't mean speaking in a monotone and pretending humor disqualifies thought. A low murmur ran through the audience again. Joy pressed forward. But humor can trivialize pain. That's the concern. When serious issues become punchlines, it can feel dismissive to the people actually affected. Ryan leaned forward slightly. I've never made pain the punchline. I make hypocrisy the punchline. That line hit the room like a dropped glass. One of the co-hosts glanced at Joy, then back at Ryan, clearly unsure whether to step in. Joy's voice became firmer. Some would say that's just semantics. Ryan shook his head. No, it's intention. He paused, letting that word hang. Intention matters. Joy tilted her head. So if someone is offended by something you say, you believe their reaction is just a misunderstanding of your intention? Ryan exhaled slowly. No, I believe offense is real. I just don't believe it automatically means the speaker is wrong. The audience reacted again, this time louder. A mix of agreement and surprise. Joy didn't like that. It showed in her eyes. So the burden is on the listener? She asked. The burden is on everyone, Ryan replied calmly. On me to speak thoughtfully. On others to listen thoughtfully. Joy leaned back, folding her arms. That sounds idealistic. Ryan gave a faint smile. Maybe. But I'd rather be idealistic than accusatory. Another subtle reaction from the crowd. The air felt heavier now. The kind of heaviness that comes when a conversation stops being about the topic and starts being about the people having it. Joy's tone shifted again. Less analytical. More personal. You have a reputation, Ryan, for being able to joke your way out of anything. Do you think you're doing that right now? Ryan didn't smile this time. No, he said quietly. I think I stopped joking 5 minutes ago. The words landed with unsettling clarity. The studio went very still. Joy's fingers tapped the table again, but this time there was a faint tension in the rhythm. Then let me ask you directly. Do you believe people like us, people on shows like this, are part of the problem you joke about? Ryan held her gaze without blinking. Sometimes yes. A collective inhale from the audience. Joy's eyebrows lifted. Explain. Ryan leaned forward fully now, forearms resting on his knees. Because conversations turn into performances. Because opinions turn into sound bites. Because sometimes, instead of listening, we wait for our turn to speak. No one moved. Not a host. Not a cameraman. Not even the audience. Joy's lips pressed together. You're on a show right now. Ryan nodded. I know, and I'm trying not to perform. That line struck harder than anything before it. One of the co-hosts finally spoke up, her voice cautious. Ryan, I think what Joy is trying to say is... Ryan turned to her gently. I understand what she's trying to say. I really do. He turned back to Joy. But I don't think she understands what I'm trying to say. Joy's eyes narrowed again. Then say it clearly. Ryan didn't hesitate. People are tired of being talked at. They want authenticity. Even if it's messy. Even if it's uncomfortable. Joy shot back immediately. And you think this isn't uncomfortable? Ryan's voice softened. I think this is the most honest part of the interview. That comment sent a visible ripple through the audience. Some nodded. Others exchanged looks. Joy leaned forward again. But now there was something else in her expression. Not anger. Not exactly. Something closer to defensiveness. So you're saying we're dishonest? Ryan shook his head. No. I'm saying the format is. That was the moment the tension fully crystallized. Joy's face tightened. This format has allowed millions of important conversations to happen. Ryan nodded. And it's also turned millions of important conversations into arguments people watch for entertainment. A hush fell again. Even the background studio noise seemed to disappear. Joy opened her mouth, then closed it. For the first time, she didn't have an immediate counter. Ryan continued, more quietly now. I'm not attacking you. I'm talking about a system we're both inside. Joy looked at him carefully, studying him. And you think joking about it fixes it? Ryan's eyes didn't leave hers. No. I think acknowledging it is the first step. There was something different in his tone now. Less sharp. More sincere. But the tension didn't fade. It deepened. Because now it wasn't a clash. It was a confrontation of perspectives. Joy spoke slower this time. Do you think we're out of touch? Ryan paused. And that pause said more than any immediate answer could have. Yes, he said finally. Sometimes. The audience reacted louder than before. A wave of whispers, shifting in seats. Joy's expression hardened. That's a bold statement to make sitting in front of us. Ryan nodded. It's an honest one. Joy's voice rose slightly. You don't think we represent everyday people? Ryan answered without hesitation. I think you represent viewpoints. Not necessarily everyday experiences. A few audience members clapped before quickly stopping, unsure if they should. Joy's composure was thinning now. So what, in your opinion, should shows like this do differently? Ryan didn't miss a beat. Listen more. Debate less. Joy gave a short, incredulous laugh. This is a talk show. Ryan replied calmly, exactly. The words hung in the air like a challenge. And for a brief second, it felt like the entire studio realized something at the same time. This had gone far beyond an interview. This was now a live philosophical standoff. And neither of them was backing down. The air in the studio no longer felt like it belonged to a daytime talk show. It felt like a courtroom without a judge. A debate without a moderator. A moment suspended in live television where no one, not the producers, not the hosts, not even the audience, knew who was supposed to steer the ship anymore. Ryan sat still, hands loosely clasped, but his eyes were alert. Focused. Joy, on the other hand, looked like someone trying to maintain control of a conversation that had slipped out of the script and into something far more unpredictable. One of the co-hosts attempted a soft smile. Maybe we should pivot back to Ryan's new film. Joy raised her hand slightly without looking at her. A subtle but unmistakable signal. No, Joy said calmly. I think this is important. Ryan nodded once. I agree. That mutual agreement made the tension sharper, not softer. Joy leaned forward again. You said we debate too much and listen too little. But isn't debate how ideas are challenged? Ryan answered without hesitation. Debate is useful when both sides are trying to understand, not when both sides are trying to win. A few people in the audience audibly murmured agreement. Joy caught that. Her jaw tightened just slightly. So now this is about winning? Ryan shook his head. It becomes about winning when people stop hearing each other. Joy's tone shifted again, less confrontational, more probing. And you think I'm not hearing you? Ryan held her gaze. I think you're preparing your next response instead of absorbing my last sentence. The audience reacted louder than before. A wave of surprised laughter, gasps, and whispers all at once. Joy blinked, clearly taken off guard by the precision of that observation. For a split second, her composure cracked. I am listening, she said, but it sounded more defensive than confident. Ryan's voice softened. Then hear this without planning what you'll say after. The room went quiet again. He continued. People don't feel represented by conversations that feel rehearsed. They feel represented by conversations that feel real. Even if they're messy. Even if they're uncomfortable. Even if someone doesn't get the last word. Joy sat back slowly, studying him in a way she hadn't before. Not like a host examining a guest, but like a person trying to understand another person. You're saying authenticity matters more than structure. Ryan nodded. Yes. Joy asked quietly. And you think we've lost that? Ryan didn't rush the answer. I think you're very good at what you do, he said carefully. But I also think people can feel when something is polished to the point that it stops feeling human. That landed differently. Less like an attack. More like a critique from someone who genuinely meant it. Joy's eyes softened for just a fraction of a second. But Ryan, she said, there's a reason structure exists. Without it, conversations become chaos. Ryan smiled faintly. Sometimes chaos is where honesty lives. A low, thoughtful murmur spread through the audience. Joy looked down at her cards, then back up. Do you think we're afraid of chaos? Ryan didn't hesitate. I think television is. Joy absorbed that. You could almost see the wheels turning behind her eyes. And you're not. Ryan shrugged lightly. I live in chaos. I have kids. The audience laughed, breaking the tension for just a moment. Even Joy let out a short laugh, but it faded quickly. Humor again, she said. Ryan nodded. Because tension breaks people. Humor bends it. Joy tilted her head. But bending isn't the same as fixing. Ryan's expression turned serious again. No, but it keeps people from snapping. There was a long pause. Joy spoke more quietly now. You really believe that, don't you? Ryan nodded. I do. The conversation had changed shape. It was no longer sharp edges colliding. It was two perspectives circling each other carefully, like fighters who suddenly realize they're both exhausted from swinging. Joy asked, Do you think people misunderstand you? Ryan considered it. Sometimes. But I'd rather be misunderstood for trying to connect than perfectly understood for saying nothing. That line hit the audience deeply. A few people actually clapped before realizing how quiet the room was and stopping themselves. Joy noticed it. You've turned this into a philosophical discussion, she said. Ryan smiled faintly. I thought that's what you wanted when you asked me to be serious. Joy exhaled slowly through her nose. I did. A beat passed. Then Joy asked something that changed the tone again. Do you think I came at you unfairly? Ryan paused. This was different. This wasn't about formats or audiences or systems. This was personal. He answered carefully. I think you came at me expecting a version of me that I didn't bring today. Joy blinked. What does that mean? Ryan's voice was calm. I think you expected jokes. Deflections. And when you didn't get them, it felt like resistance. Joy stared at him, processing that. And you think I don't know how to handle that? Ryan shook his head gently. I think you weren't prepared for it. The audience was silent again, completely absorbed. Joy's expression shifted. Not angry. Not defensive. Thoughtful. You might be right, she admitted quietly. That admission changed everything. The tension didn't vanish, but it transformed. Now it felt like two people who had accidentally stumbled into a real conversation in the middle of a television show built for something else. Ryan leaned back slightly, his posture relaxing for the first time since the confrontation began. Joy glanced at the camera for a brief second, then back at him. This is not how this interview was supposed to go, she said. Ryan smiled softly. Those are usually the best ones. A faint ripple of laughter moved through the crowd. Joy shook her head slightly, almost amused now. You're very difficult to interview. Ryan replied gently. I'm very easy to talk to. Harder to argue with. The audience laughed louder this time. Even Joy smiled, genuinely. But beneath that smile, something else remained. A realization that this wasn't just a viral TV moment unfolding. This was a mirror being held up in real time. And everyone in the room could see themselves in it. Something had shifted in the studio that no lighting cue or commercial break could reset. The audience wasn't watching a celebrity interview anymore. They were witnessing a moment that felt unfiltered, unscripted, and strangely intimate for a live broadcast. The kind of moment that spreads across social media before the segment even ends. The kind of moment producers both fear and secretly hope for. Joy sat with her hands folded now, no cue cards, no defensive posture. Ryan looked calmer than he had at any point since the exchange began. Not victorious. Not smug. Just present. One of the co-hosts finally spoke, her voice gentle. This might be one of the most honest conversations we've had on this show. No one disagreed. Joy nodded slowly. I think it is. She turned to Ryan. You challenged me today. Ryan shook his head lightly. I didn't mean to challenge you. I meant to talk to you. Joy gave a faint smile. Sometimes those are the same thing. A soft, warm ripple of laughter moved through the audience. But the weight of what had happened still lingered in the air. Joy leaned forward slightly. You said earlier that people feel talked at instead of talked to. Do you feel talked to right now? Ryan paused, then nodded. Yes, I do. Joy inhaled deeply, almost as if accepting something she hadn't planned to confront on live television. Then maybe we needed this conversation as much as you did. The audience applauded, not loudly but sincerely. Ryan looked out at them for a moment. I think everyone needs more conversations like this. Less performance. More listening. Joy glanced toward the camera, aware now that millions of viewers were on the other side of this moment. Well, she said softly, they definitely got something different today. Ryan smiled. Different is good. A producer's voice faintly echoed from somewhere off stage, signaling the segment was nearing its end. The red light on the camera still glowed, but the usual rhythm of daytime television had been completely disrupted. Joy turned back to Ryan. Before we wrap, is there anything you want to say to the audience watching at home? Ryan didn't rush. He looked thoughtful, choosing his words with care. Yeah, he said quietly. It's okay to disagree without trying to destroy each other. It's okay to listen without planning your response. And it's okay to admit when a conversation changes you a little. The studio was silent, completely silent. Joy nodded slowly, her eyes reflecting something that hadn't been there at the start of the interview. Respect. Thank you for that, she said. Ryan nodded back. Thank you for pushing me. The applause that followed wasn't the loud, excited kind that opens a segment. It was the kind that closes a moment people know they'll remember. As the cameras cut to a wide shot and the music began to rise, you could already sense what was about to happen outside the studio walls. Phones lighting up, clips being shared, headlines being written. Ryan Reynolds and Joy Behar's unexpected on-air clash turns into powerful dialogue. Fans praise raw exchange on The View. Did Ryan Reynolds just redefine celebrity interviews? Within minutes, social media would be dissecting every line. Some viewers siding with Ryan, others defending Joy. Comment sections would explode with debate, not about who won, but about what was said. And that was the difference. This hadn't felt like a fight. It had felt like a collision that created understanding instead of damage. Back in the studio, as the segment officially ended and the applause faded, Joy leaned slightly toward Ryan off mic. That wasn't what I expected, she admitted quietly. Ryan smiled. Me neither, she added almost to herself. But I'm glad it happened. Ryan stood, shook her hand warmly, and the audience gave one last round of applause as he waved goodbye. But the real conversation had just begun. Online, in living rooms, in comment threads, in minds that hadn't expected a daytime talk show to make them think this much. Because what started as tension had ended as reflection. And reflection lingers far longer than confrontation. So now we turn to you. What did you think of this powerful, unexpected exchange? Do you believe Ryan was right about how conversations happen on television? Or do you think Joy was right to challenge him? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy dramatic, emotional stories that pull you inside unforgettable moments like this, make sure you subscribe to The Truth Narrator for more explosive narratives you won't see anywhere else.